Hello, legal warriors. How to avoid getting arrested. If you're interested in that, if you're being investigated for something you've just always wanted to know, stay tuned because this is the video for you. My name's Lance Fryrear, and this is my YouTube channel where I provide information about the criminal law. I have a law firm that's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years. An arrest is a serious thing. It's a serious topic. So how do you avoid getting arrested? And I know some of you might say, hey, Lance, that's easy. Just don't do anything criminal and you can avoid getting arrested. Well, I wish it were that easy because you can actually get arrested quite easily, even if you haven't committed a crime. And so how you avoid getting arrested really depends on the type of crime you're being investigated for. The hardest one to avoid an arrest would be if you're being pulled over for investigation of DUI. For the most part, if an officer smells alcohol, they're making an arrest. And what do I mean by an arrest? What I mean by an arrest is you get handcuffed and you get taken to jail, right? And you've got to spend the night in jail. So for a DUI, if you've been drinking, if you cooperate, when I say cooperate, be polite, and we've got videos on what not to do, field tests and things like that. If you cooperate, you might only get taken to the police station and then let go home. But if you're sort of difficult with the officer or you have a prior history, you're probably getting arrested and taken to jail. But what about other situations? So besides DUI, there's some major situations where an officer is required to arrest somebody. And the first type of situation that is in a domestic violence charge. If an officer is called to investigate domestic violence, and that means some type of dispute between family or household members, spouses, people that are dating, family members, people that just live together in the same household, even if not dating and not related, if there's an claimed assault or claimed property damage, something like that, an officer's going to have to arrest someone if it happened within 4 hours of the time the officer showed up. That's the law in Washington State. So how do you avoid getting arrested there? Well, do not protect anyone, right? Oftentimes we have one partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, one spouse who thinks the other spouse is going to sort of minimize what happened, but they don't. And then you as the suspect, you don't say, hey, he pushed me first or she scratched me first. You say nothing happened. And now only one side of the story is out there. And the person who looks more like the victim, based upon what was said, not what actually happened, that person's not getting arrested and the other one is, okay? The one who looks more like the primary aggressor. So to avoid getting arrested, in that case, if it's a dispute between two people and there's been pushing or shoving, don't try to protect anyone if you want to avoid getting arrested. You cannot just talk your way out of it. They're not leaving. We'll put it that way if they believe an assault happened. If it's just a verbal argument, yeah, there's no physical contact, nothing was broken. Maybe the police leave at that point once they learn that. But if anything happened, someone's going to jail. And if you don't want it to be you, make sure it's not you that looks like the primary aggressor. And so along those lines, if you have a scratch, if you have injuries, if you have something that's, beneath a piece of clothing, go ahead and ask the officer to take a look at it so they can make a determination. Hey, were you more the victim or are you more of the perpetrator? And that way you're going to decrease your chances of you spending the night in jail and getting charged with a crime that can wreck your life. Okay. So there's another area where how you behave with the officer and can actually affect whether or not you're getting arrested. And that main area is what I call investigation of cold crimes, things that just didn't happen, or more like major felonies that are in the past, like a sex case or an old theft case or something like that. So while I've worked on both sides, right? I've been on the law enforcement side as a prosecutor and now the defense side, and seeing both sides and working closely with law enforcement over the years. Law enforcement are people that have a job, okay? And their job may be to investigate crime, but their job typically involves them, taking a position in their head because they're a human and they're not necessarily trying to clear somebody. Okay, sometimes they are, but oftentimes we have a preconceived notion of someone's guilt or innocence because a person, a victim, right, has come forward and said, hey, grandpa did such and such to my grandchild 10 years ago. And so that officer may think, well, why is that person wouldn't lie, that person claiming this? So they may already think that the suspect is guilty. So if you get a surprise, if you get a knock on your door about some type of crime or a phone call, the most important thing to do is don't talk to the police officer right then, okay? But also don't make it seem like you're never willing to talk to the officer. A good idea might be to say something like, officer, I'd love to hear more and talk to you about this, but I can't right now. So can I set up a time to talk to you in the future? As if you're really, not face to face, if you're on the phone, then you need to contact an attorney and let the attorney help you figure out what to do. Whether or not you need an attorney depends on the situation. If a police officer's at your door, remember, you do not have to answer the door, right? We don't have to talk to the officer, but if we do talk to them, say, hey, officer, I'm pretty busy right now. I would like to talk to you, but I'd rather do so with an attorney present, or at least after talking to one. So can I talk to you in the future? So the reason why you're trying to not make it seem like I'm never going to talk to you, officer, is because, again, the officer is a person, and sometimes an officer already has probable cause to arrest you in their mind. And it's a really good idea to try to get you to talk to help build some piece of their case or get an admission. I mean, that's what their job is, right? To try to make the crime which they think happened, to be able to prove it, to make it easier for the prosecutors. So if you shut down right away and they think you're never going to talk to them, well, they may just arrest you right then, because either one, they're mad, or they want some evidence of it on your arrest record, or they think it's going to shake you up, and now you're going to get flustered and say, okay, I'll talk, right? So you want to be the one controlling the impression that the police officer gets. You want them to think that you will or may cooperate with them in the future, but now is not a good time, or hey, I need to talk to an attorney. And depending on the mood and personality of law enforcement, that may help you avoid getting arrested right then and there. And if you avoid getting arrested, then you can reach out to an attorney to try to help improve your chances of not being arrested in the future. So, Lance, why don't they just go arrest everybody? Well, not everybody gets arrested because it depends on what is in it for the officer to make the arrest. There are those cases where that human being officer is so mad, so upset that they just want to make an arrest. There's also cases where, hey, it's a sex offense and I may not think it's that strong as an officer. Well, I'm going to make an arrest so that suspect has some evidence that they may have done something wrong so they don't get away with it in the future, right? This is what an officer may be thinking. Or an officer may actually think that you're dangerous and make an arrest, right? If I don't arrest you, you're going to go harm somebody. But for the most part, there's not a lot in it for an officer to make an arrest if they don't think it's going to benefit their case, because it's a lot of work, right? And it's dangerous. They've got to go find you. They've got to, secure you. They've got to write a report that justifies it. It's a whole bunch of stuff. And if it's not going to benefit the case that they're building, if they don't have a personal reason or it won't benefit the case, then oftentimes an officer is simply going to write out their reason for believing that you're guilty of a crime and send that to the prosecutor for the prosecutor to make a decision. Well, Lance, what if the prosecutor makes a decision to charge me? Will I get arrested then? Well, it depends, but oftentimes not, because oftentimes the court will send a summons, which is a piece of mail telling you to come to court, right? They'll send it to you in the mail. In some places like King County, they sort of have a process which I don't think is very fair as a defense attorney, but oftentimes the prosecutor files the case at a warrant, which the judge signs ex parte, one-sided, and now there's a warrant for your arrest out, even though you never missed a court date. And so those have to be handled swiftly and in a certain way to avoid arrest, because many times officers will come looking for you. They'll come to your work. I've seen them come to my client's work, all over the place, trying to serve that arrest warrant. So if you have a King County felony and you're not charged yet, and you haven't been arrested, but you were investigated or you were arrested and released, make sure you get a hold of an attorney so you don't get arrested or you don't get arrested again. So those are some of the main ways to avoid being arrested, besides, not committing any crimes. But again, you could be innocent of crime and still be arrested. And if you do get arrested, best practice, do not answer questions of the government, law enforcement. You don't have to. Ask to speak to an attorney. And if you call your loved ones from the jail, please do not talk about the facts, F-A-C-T-S, facts of the case, about over the jail phone, because it's recorded. And prosecutors on felony cases, and even some non-felonies, they'll listen to those calls. And that's evidence against you. They can sit in their bedroom with their laptop and hear every call you ever made. So if you're calling the loved one, hey, I'm arrested, I don't have bail yet, can you get a hold of somebody to help me? That's what you should talk about. And, the worst is you call your mother, the mother wants all the information, and we want to talk to mom. Mom, I can't believe this happened, XYZ, XYZ. Don't do that. And if you're out there, or fathers, whoever, stop your loved one who's in a panic from talking about the case. They can wreck it. They can make it really hard on the defendant. And I hate to see that happen. So if you found this video useful, please like and please subscribe. It'll help us get this information to more legal warriors out there. And if you're in a situation where you're being investigated, you've been arrested, you're afraid of being arrested, you have a charge, if you're in Washington State at least, feel free to give my office a call. Again, my name's Lance Fryrear. Been doing this for more than 20 years on the defense side. We've got a bunch of great attorneys at my firm. We'll listen to what happened. We'll try to identify a way forward, and we'll be there for you. Thank you.